Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast. It is podcast number 88. We're filming a little bit later today than usual. It's around 2 p.m. local time. We were supposed to film a little bit earlier, but...
Why is that, Neil?
Okay, so I was a little hungry, which is not a big deal. I go hungry lots, but my stomach was so loud.
It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
We literally could not film.
I think you have a condition.
Yeah, it's called mead food.
So we're sitting here. We're getting ready. This is what, like 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago?
Yeah.
This is a while ago. We're getting ready. We're looking at our notes. And I'm just sitting here and all I hear is... like
It's quite loud.
And there's like... The gap between sounds was maybe 3 seconds at most. It was constant. Like, I was like, I can't believe this. Like, we can't film like this. Like, we literally have to go put food in your belly before we could do this. So we literally had to leave and go get food and come back.
So here we are, like 2 hours later. So with that said, the podcast is going to release a little bit later today. By the time you listen to this, it doesn't really matter because you'll be listening to it. So it only really affects us.
The things we deal with behind the scenes.
That's right.
It's incredible.
This podcast is going to be a little bit different than most because of the main topic of this podcast. We thought about making a separate video specifically on the Don Cherry incident, but we felt like the platform for discussion of this whole topic is really like it is completely podcast worthy. Like it's exactly what the podcast was designed to be around, is to have a conversation with no real time limit where we can just talk. We don't have to worry about, man, if we make this video about this topic and it's 40 minutes, is someone really going to watch this? But this is a podcast. Podcasts are usually pretty long. So we have a lot to say, a lot to go through about the Don Cherry situation. Excuse me. We haven't really talked about it. We talked about it a little bit, but I don't really know your in-depth opinion, and I don't think you know mine.
Nope.
So...
And we weren't sure if we were going to talk about it at first. Like when it first happened, it was like, might stay away from that.
Yeah, I might think about actually not talking about it. But so I just want to give you, and oh, by the way, I'm going to start putting the time codes down, or the timestamps down in the comment section. So if you don't want to listen to us talk about Don Cherry, you can skip ahead and see what else we're talking about in the rest of the podcast. So head on down to the comment section if you want to skip ahead or whatever.
And normally we start with the recaps?
Yeah, normally we start with the game recaps. We're just going to jump into the Don Cherry thing. So before we go through the entire thing, I just want to break down this conversation a little bit of how it's going to go, or should go for the most part. So I'm going to start by reading the quote, or the what he actually said, a quote of what he actually said.
Before you get into that, can I just say one thing?
Sure can.
Okay, so for people that are listening to this on podcasts, whether it's iTunes or whatever, you people are awesome. You're listening. That's basically the end of that. To the people that are on YouTube, you're able to post comments after this. We don't know where this conversation is going to go, but we need to be very mindful that we want to have like a productive discussion here. So we don't want to be moderating comments on this video for weeks to come. Like, we don't need hateful comments. We don't need, things that we just aren't warranted. Like, it's fine to have an opinion and it's fine to say your opinion, but we don't need people attacking other people or making comments that are just out of line. So try to keep it respectful. Like I said, we don't know where this conversation is going yet. We're going to try to give you the facts. We're going to try to give you our opinion on things. You may not agree with us. You may agree with us. It's an opinion's an opinion, right? So just you have your opinion, we have ours. Let's try to, Yeah,
and we're not going to be disrespectful of our opinions. We're just going to be as level-headed and as factual as we can.
We understand the nature of this topic is hostile. Like, it's very hostile right now. There's totally two sides with a line drawn right in the middle.
Yeah.
So we're just going to try to navigate that easily and give you our honest opinion, but we're going to be respectful to the people that may not disagree with us or agree with us.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll start by reading the quote, and then we'll talk about a specific thing from within the quote, and then I want to talk about things that I agree with, things that I disagree with on the situation, a little bit of Don's history, and I'll answer the question: do I think Don Cherry should have been fired? We'll talk a little bit about Ron MacLean, and then I have a little. It's not really a fun fact, but it's something that happened to a fan that I want to talk about. Something you don't know about. So, okay, so here's the actual quote, and I've heard this a couple times. You've heard this a couple times. The majority of you have heard this a couple times, but I just want to read it again. So he says, "You people that come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life. You love our milk and honey. At least you could pay a couple of bucks for poppies or something like that. These guys paid for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada." So first, I just want to point out a part of that quote. So the term "you people," now, in the context of how he said it, that's where probably the biggest issue with what he said is the fact that he said "you people" because it came across as a racial thing.
Also because he said that come, right? It's
Yes.
you people that come.
Yes.
Inferring that I'm speaking to people that weren't here before,
Yes.
right? So it's easy, like it's never inferred directly that he's talking about immigrants or whatever, but it's easy to infer from that 4-word quote
Exactly.
what demographic he's targeting. So
It's not so much about the literal words "you people" because that is a very typical Don Cherry.
Don Cherry says you people all the time. You people
all the
out there
time.
need to be whatever, like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
And "you people" to him just means anyone who doesn't share the same opinion as him,
Yes.
basically. Like, "you people," like, pay attention kind of thing. But in the context of how he delivered it in this sentence, it came across very racial. So, and that's the big issue, right? So, I don't have a problem with his term of "you people" as he generally uses it, but his delivery was poor. And he even admitted that at this point now that we're filming this. So I just wanted to point out that if you aren't familiar with Don Cherry, and maybe you've never watched Don Cherry, or maybe, I don't know, there's definitely people on social media who've never watched, in Canada, who've never watched Don Cherry. I don't really know anything about him, but they read this quote and they say "you people," and they're completely offended. And I don't necessarily disagree, but if you know Don Cherry, you give him a little bit more of a slack on the "you people" words because he does say it quite a bit. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying.
And
that's what
I'd
it
say, like, for example, in the States, there's probably a lot of people who do know who Don Cherry is, but they don't get the opportunity to see him every weekend for the last 30 some years like we have.
Yeah.
So they may be aware of him and aware of things he has said in the past and know that he says player names wrong all the time. They know he has hot takes. They know like his personality, but they don't have the I guess experience of seeing him every week for 34, 35, 36 years, whatever it was.
Like, Don Cherry is one of the most popular public figures in Canada.
His platform is huge.
Like,
there's no doubt about it. His platform is huge.
So this is why I don't know if it's a big story in the United States, but in Canada, it is on the front page of every newspaper. It's the starting news story in every broadcast, on every radio show, and every TV. Like, this is one of the biggest stories of the year, probably outside of the election in Canada. It's extremely significant. It's unfortunate, but yeah. So, okay. So it's become a complete political issue, which is understandable, but frustrating, I guess. You have the left, you have the right. They're going back and forth. There's one really strong opinion on the left side and one really strong opinion on the right side. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but I want to touch base on both sides. I'm going to tell you things that I do agree with and things that I don't agree with.
Like, this is a topic that is outside of sports.
Completely outside sports.
Like,
it's nothing to do with sports.
Like, a lot of people stick to sports. Like, that's, I don't want to deal with politics. I don't want to deal with stuff but this issue, and I even told you this when it happened before we even thought about filming video. Like, this is beyond sports. Like, it just is. Like, it is absolutely a left and right. Like, they have left and right, whether what side you're on, they have different views on immigration. They have different views on a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And that's what this is. So, the problem, is not with his message about supporting the troops. I haven't heard a single person out there that said that they're upset with Don over the message he was trying to say.
Exactly.
It was just the opening. So
yeah, like his message, I agree with his message in the sense that it would be nice to see more poppies on people.
Don Cherry probably stands for the troops more than any other public figure I've seen in my life.
And that is extremely, I have so much respect for him in that regard. And I completely agree that, it would be nice to see more poppies on people. But it's more about the money, like the money that gets donated every time you get a poppy. And if you're not from Canada and you don't know how it works, like if you go in a gas station, there'll be some veterans sitting at a table. And it's different everywhere, but they'll have like a little dish and they'll give you a poppy and you kind of donate. You can donate a quarter, you can donate $10. It's whatever you want. So that money is really, really important to the veterans and the legions around Canada and stuff. So I agree with him in the sense that it would be nice to see more people wear poppies. So good on him for taking a stand on that. But that's where things kind of took a turn. His message was really important. It was really good. And then he just went completely get the wrong direction and made it a political, racial, immigration issue. And heat of the moment, whatever. But so that's the problem. But
and a lot of people, like I've been reading stuff and watching stuff, and a lot of people say that Don's not the best with words. He doesn't speak
right
properly. He sometimes what he's trying to say doesn't come across as what he's saying. But I'm not sure if this is one of those times, because immediately after it happened, he said, I know what I said and I stand by what I said.
Exactly.
And then later on, he was on a different program and he said, I could have been smarter and worded it differently to keep my job. But so I don't think, I don't know, but I don't think this is one of those times where he said something in the heat of a moment where he said it incorrectly, because he had the opportunity to clarify it. And he said, I know what I said and I stand by it.
Yeah, and that kind of ties in with the history of Don Cherry, because he's had this viewpoint forever, and we'll talk about that a little bit, I guess. But it's, I don't I have extreme respect for him. Like, this is one of the other things that I agree with. The fact that he has the balls to say whatever he feels in his opinion, regardless if I think he's right or wrong, you can't say that about a lot of people, especially anywhere in the media, as far as radio, TV, politically, anything like that. I don't think there's anyone else out there in Canada who speaks his mind more than Don Cherry over a public forum. So I have extreme respect for him. He has his opinion. He's standing by it. If you look at Justin Trudeau, not that I want to make this political, but Justin Trudeau bends and breaks over a lot of things. He always breaks under pressure and tries to make people happy and stuff. Don Cherry's the complete opposite of that. He doesn't, he'll have an opinion and he'll stick by it and stand by it. Mm-hmm. I don't always agree with him, and in fact, I disagree with him more than I agree with him. But I have way more respect for Don Cherry than I do Justin Trudeau, who I probably agree with more than Don Cherry, but I still don't agree with Justin Trudeau that much.
And you don't necessarily have to like a guy to have respect for him either.
Exactly.
And I don't know if that's like a fallen art. I don't know if art's the right word, but it seems like that doesn't really exist with the younger people these days. It's hot takes, and I don't think your dad's a fan of Don Cherry. Is he, or?
I think him and I have watched Don Cherry less and less over the years.
And are you watching it for information, or are you watching it for hot takes?
I'm watching it for hot takes, hockey talk in general, and the interaction and conversation with Ron MacLean.
Yeah.
Because I like their back and forth. I like they've been together for 30 years or 25 years or whatever
34,
it was.
yeah.
So they have that relationship. They have the camaraderie. They make jokes back and forth. They tease each other and stuff. So part of the reason why I'm watching is to watch that. And this is kind of a segue into things that I don't like. I don't like that Don always, in between periods on a Saturday night, when I watch Coach's Corner, what do I want to listen to? I want to listen to hockey talk. I really respect that he supports the troops. It's important that he supports the veterans and stuff. If he made a documentary that was 4 hours long about the veterans and stories and visiting them and stuff, I'd watch it and I'd really like it. But just in general, and I'm not just talking about last Saturday, but in general, he talks about non-hockey things quite a bit in Coach's Corner, and that's where it loses me. That's why I've stopped watching over the past 10 years, because do I agree with the things that he's saying and the stories he's telling you and the things that he's doing about the troops and the veterans? Absolutely. But I mentally checked out, because when I watch hockey, when I'm listening to Coach's Corner and everything, that's my mental break. That's my fun, right? I go to work every day of the week, and on weekends I watch hockey. I don't really want to transition my brain in Coach's Corner back to something serious about the troops. Not that it should be ignored, but to me it's just he uses that platform for his personal beliefs, and I wish he used it for just hockey. And that's where we are today, where he's taken a personal belief and now it's a big issue. Mm-hmm. So
Coach's Corner has been politicized for quite a while now.
Yeah,
it's not just a hockey segment.
It's not. It's almost. It's not even Coach's Corner. For half of it, half of it's Coach's Corner, and half of it's Colonel's Corner, because it's a lot of. Yeah, it's a lot of support the troops, and like, it is important. It's an extremely important message. I completely agree with it. I've always become uninterested because I'm looking for hockey talk. I'm not looking for veterans talk during hockey broadcasts. So that's a little long-winded, but anyway. Another thing I disagree with is his delivery, and I guess we kind of already discussed this a little bit, but he could have said, if he just stayed on the track of promoting the fact that it really means a lot when you go into the store and you get a poppy and you donate some money. Like, he just had to, if he just stayed on that track, it would have been such a powerful message. It would have gotten news stories. It would have gotten, like, people would have been talking about it. It's such a positive thing. But the way that he turned and delivered the rest of the message was so disrespectful. It was really frustrating. And I can't imagine being an immigrant to this country and hearing that. I would feel so upset.
See, I think it's okay to call people out on not wearing the poppy, but call everybody out.
Yeah.
Don't limit it to a minority group.
Yeah. And also, here's the thing. I bought 3 poppies this year, and they all fell off. The third one I bought fell off, and I have no idea where it is. I lost 3, but I tried to wear as much as I could. They just kept falling off. And that happens. And here's another part of my problem. If you see someone who doesn't have a poppy, it doesn't mean that they don't respect the troops or support the veterans. I have a tattoo on the inside of my arm that's a Spitfire that my grandfather flew in World War II, and I got this to pay homage to him and the rest of the veterans. If Don Cherry saw me walking down the street with no poppy in Toronto, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, Canadian boy not wearing a poppy, that's not cool," he's judging me without knowing me.
That's right.
I literally have... Eventually, there actually is going to be a poppy here. When I finish the tattoo, there's going to be a soldier in mourning and stuff, whatever. Like, you can pay your respect and support the troops in different ways without wearing a poppy, but I do agree with him that it would be nice to see more people wearing poppies, but they do fall off. So, like, I don't care that much if I don't see someone wearing a poppy, like, because I know that they do fall off. Has a poppy ever fallen off? Yeah, you lose them all the time. So, by the time I have the third one, I was the day before Remembrance Day, and then on Remembrance Day is when I lost it, and then no one wears poppies past Remembrance Day usually, so I didn't bother picking up a 4th, but anyway. I think there's something about Don Cherry that is very admirable and also concerning. He has a God complex. He always thinks he's right. He doesn't really care about a lot of opinions of other people. And I think he's really good at sending the message home with his opinion, even if it's negative, and I respect that because he does take a stand on a lot of things, on things that most people agree with, and sometimes things that people don't agree with. But I think that's a really good quality of him, that he does take a stand, and he is hard-headed, and he does say what's on his mind. But it's also a fault because he always thinks he's right, and he's not a good listener. Like, sometimes Ron will try and have the opposite opinion of him and trying to convince him of something, and it's just like it's a losing battle. Like,
well, we watched the 1990 Fifth Estate CBC report, and it was actually a good report. If you look it up on YouTube, I think it's like 15 minutes long, 14 minutes long, and it's a 1990 interview about immigration and stuff. And he even tells the guy that's interviewing him that he doesn't handle criticism well.
Yeah. He hates criticism.
He can't handle criticism. He hates it.
And the guy called him out in the interview. You should really go watch it. Just search Don Cherry 1990 on YouTube. You'll find it. It's a fantastic watch. But the interviewer calls him out. He's like, "What do you mean you don't like criticism? You're the leader of criticism."
Yeah, he basically says 60% of the stuff you spew out is nonsense, and you can't handle when people come back. And he just says, "No, I can't."
Yeah. So, anyways, it's interesting, but that goes with Don's history. He's always had a strong stance against immigration. He doesn't like criticism. He doesn't like international European players in the NHL.
There is a huge history of him not wanting European players in the league. He had issues in the past with Russian players coming over, and we're sending money to Russia now because those players are getting paid.
Yeah.
He's not happy that this was a couple years ago that people from Europe were coming and playing in the Canadian Hockey League. He called out Europeans playing in like the minor leagues, like Bantam and Pee Wee and stuff like that. So he definitely had, rightly or wrongly, I mean, you have your own stance on whether you agree with him or not, but those are public stances he has made. Like,
he's definitely the biggest advocate for.
He's pro-Canadian.
Yeah, he's a nationalist.
Yes,
like he's the biggest advocate for only having Canadians and Americans in the NHL. 30 years ago and today.
Yep.
He still agrees with it. He's warmed up a little bit. He has fun saying names that he can't pronounce and stuff, but if it was up to him, there would be no Russians in the NHL. There would be no Swedes, there would be no Finns, there would be no Germans, nothing.
Yeah, and this isn't a one-off. Like this is a history of his career going back that he's just been able to get away with it. And last weekend that was,
exactly.
He crossed the line apparently and
exactly. Anyways, do you think Don Cherry should have been fired?
I thought about this a lot.
I did too.
I've actually wavered back and forth. I'm kind of glad we're taking a week after it happened to talk about this because there's actually been a lot of different people come out and say things, and it's like I was telling you off mic. I don't think I've seen one person publicly that I respect come out and say that they don't think he didn't do anything wrong. Like, I think everyone acknowledges his words were poor.
Yeah.
And by his own admission, he meant what he said. So he meant to say those things. So he was at fault for saying what he said.
Yes.
So 100% he was in the wrong. He shouldn't have done that.
I agree.
Now, is that grounds for being terminated?
And this
Sportsnet thought so.
Sportsnet, yes. And that you made the comment off air earlier that they have a new CEO.
Yes. So the other guy that was there is gone. Rob Moore? Scott Moore. Sorry. Scott Moore was the old president of Sportsnet for Rogers. He left early this spring/late winter, early in 2019. A new guy's come in and he's actually cleaned house quite a bit. Like in terms of Sportsnet radio on 590, like Bob McCowan's gone, John Shannon's gone, Nick Kyprios is gone, Doug MacLean's gone. Like there's a whole bunch of the old kind of boys club guys that are gone, and they're shaking things up. And there's a lot of like new TV personalities and new radio personalities that a lot of them are former players that were okay. They're not like great players, but they're just kind of filling in, and they're obviously not getting paid as much. So they are shaking things up a little bit. And so this may be a result of the new president being in there too. And I don't think we're kidding anybody. Like this isn't about just what he said. This is also about sponsors. This is about money. Yeah, this is about the corporate side. Like,
it's a big deal.
So, I can understand, I guess, why Sportsnet did it. But if it was me, I don't know if there's it's a private company, right? So they can do what they want.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether you or I agree whether something was too harsh or not. If a company wants to get rid of you, they have that right. If they're saying that you are hurting our brand or our brand doesn't agree, like Sportsnet's slogan is United by Sport, literally.
Yes.
And Don Cherry came out and specifically targeted a group of immigrants basically in Canada.
Yeah.
So that right there doesn't jive with United by Sport. Like exactly. Sportsnet saying, "Hey, let's bring everyone together." It's a nice marketing slogan to try to, you know what I mean? Like it's bring me that cheddar. But
exactly.
Like you had the president of Sportsnet put a tweet out after that happened and he said, "We don't agree with this." So you knew something might be coming down after that. Then Ron MacLean put a tweet out.
Yeah.
This isn't looking too good for Don. It seemed like it was something that was possible that he could get fired. So I don't, if it was me, I don't know if I would have, but I don't know everything that happened in behind the scenes either. And I think that's important. Like, was he given the opportunity to clarify and to apologize? Did he reject that? Like, is he just sticking to his guns where I should be able to say whatever I want to say and it's not coach's corner if I have to be filtered? And I can understand how some people like that. Like there's just a group of people that have that mindset where free speech, we should be able to say what we want without, You know what I mean? And all this other stuff's happening, and you're picking on Don Cherry. Well, the other stuff doesn't matter because this is a private company dealing with one of their employees who's paid quite handsomely.
Correct. He represents their
That's right.
brand.
And Coach's Corner is one of the biggest brands on Sportsnet. Like Hockey Night in Canada is probably the biggest thing that Sportsnet runs.
Yeah, like Hockey Night in Canada, you're talking like, I mean, the Simpsons have been on forever, for like almost 30 years or more. Hockey Night in Canada and Coach's Corner has been on longer.
Yeah, so
like it's huge. It's huge in Canada. So, but that's what frustrates me about it. Where I think Sportsnet did give him the opportunity to apologize, keep his job, whatever, and he just declined it. I'm not saying that's the right or wrong decision, but that's kind of what frustrates me about it, is that you know what you're getting with Don Cherry. He's been fired in the past. He said things that probably shouldn't have been said in the past. When you hired him, you know he's going to say something. He's a ticking time bomb. But that's what you get if you're going to have him on the air and let him say what he wants. Then don't fire him for like.
But we have a new president for Sportsnet that wasn't the guy that hired him.
That's true. That's true. And he can't punish him. He's Don Cherry. He doesn't care. What are you going to do? He can't punish Don Cherry. He doesn't care. So you have to fire him. Would I have fired him? No, I don't think he should have been fired. But I don't know how to punish him either. So,
see, yeah, it's a tough situation. Like if you give him the opportunity to apologize, or maybe not even apologize, maybe just to clarify his remarks, because like we said in the opening, he doesn't specifically say who he's speaking to, but you infer from those 4 words that it's the people that weren't born here, basically,
you have to
right?
assume based on what he said.
So, I don't know. Like, sponsors aren't going to like that, right? People that are in that minority group are certainly not going to like that. The CRTC received the most complaints ever received over those comments. So the Canadian Television, Radio, whatever council that's in charge of what standards play on the thing, they were receiving more complaints than they've ever received over anything in their history. So I think Sportsnet had to act in terms of at least trying to get him to clarify his comments or apologize. And then if he refuses and says, no, I meant what I said and I'm sticking with it, I don't know how you handle that from that.
It's tough. Like, man.
Like, the world now is different from the world when Don Cherry started doing that segment, or even 10, 20 years ago.
Like 30 years ago, he had an old school mentality.
That's right.
He has the exact same mentality 30 years ago that he does today, and the world's changed so much since 30 years ago.
And Don Cherry's not alone. Like, there's cases in the States where people are fired over stuff all the time. That's just...
It's this cancel culture.
That's right. It's hot takes, and if it doesn't go with what the advertisers want or with the corporate sponsors or anything that makes our brand seem like it could offend a group of people,
exactly,
then it's not tolerated. And I think that's what a lot of the comments that are people that are pro for Don Cherry are basically saying, is like, he should be able to say what he wants. He's the only one saying what we're all thinking, and
which I agree with if it was his platform. Like, I understand Sportsnet's decision to want to fire him because he represents them. If it was Don Cherry's channel,
if Don Cherry had a YouTube channel and he was saying this on his YouTube channel, do you think he'd still be working at Sportsnet if he never brought it up during Sportsnet? But those public comments were made by him on a different platform.
That's a good question.
I think it'd be the same decision.
I think the result would be the same, but yeah, I mean, I wish that he had said it on his own platform and people could have just directly went to him with the issue.
I wish he just would have said it differently.
Oh, I completely agree. He definitely should have said it differently, but
I think we know that he wanted to say what he said, but he could have said it differently and then just in the back of his mind say, I really know who I'm talking to, but to save face, I'm just going to say all you people, which is what the message should have been either. Agree or disagree. It's fine to tell people to say, hey, go get a poppy. It's another thing to call people out on it. And I'm fine with that. Sure, shame people a little bit, saying, hey, you enjoy your life. There's a lot of people that died so you could have your life. You should be spending, put a toonie in the jar with that 80-year-old guy standing behind the desk and help him out and show your support. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, because it's not that point isn't about immigration. It's about us as well as Canadians.
That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about Remembrance Day. We're not talking about the military. We're not talking about previous wars. We're talking about him deliberately targeting a specific group of people, and that's what got him into trouble.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And I think that's a lot of the message that's getting lost with people on social media they're talking about, is they're just saying he stood up for our troops and he gets fired for calling people out. That's not what the issue is.
Right. Because he's had the same general message for a long time. More people should be wearing poppies, directed at like long-term Canadians.
Yes, people not wearing poppies.
Exactly.
You people who aren't wearing poppies.
And you people forever has been anyone who's not wearing a poppy,
Yeah,
basically.
anyone who's not wearing a poppy, or anyone that's disagreeing with what I'm saying.
Yes.
Which is fine, because you're broadcasting or targeting the wide group of people. Like, you people that come, that's targeting 20% of the population
Exactly.
instead of the other 80. Like,
it's a different Canada now. And
Yeah.
I mean, even 30 years ago, there's a lot of immigration
like
stuff.
here,
but
like
now it's going.
like check this out in my notes here that we'll get to later. Just because I figured this might be relevant. Like, I like backing up what I say with some facts.
Yeah, if we're gonna have opinion,
I have
bring some facts.
immigration statistics written down here. 21.45% of Canadians were born in a different country.
Wow, that's huge.
So when you think about that, a fifth of all Canadians were not born in this country. When he says comments like that, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, he's targeting a large group of people. So we need to remember that. He's not just talking about, a couple people. Like, this is a fifth of the country.
Yeah.
Right? So
I apologize if I get this wrong, but either CBC or Sportsnet has a completely separate, like, Punjabi broadcast.
CBC does Hockey Night in Canada and Punjabi. And how do those people feel with those comments?
Exactly.
Like when you I listen to Jeff Merrick on Hockey Central. I actually really like Jeff Merrick. I think Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman are awesome.
Yep, me too.
He said when he heard those comments, he had a discussion with his family to say, like, that's not what we're about. Like, we are, like, they live in Toronto. Like, Toronto is probably the most immigration city in Canada.
It's
Like,
huge.
we don't even understand life like that because we don't live in a place like that.
Yeah.
But he said when he first heard those comments, the first thing he thought of was the Punjabi crew.
Yeah.
Because
That's one
they've
person I thought
basically
too.
come from nothing, and they love this country. They love
Yeah.
this game. And he knows Don wasn't targeting this specifically, but
Right.
if you are in one of those minority groups, how do you look at that? Like, I know some people in the comments that said, I'm an immigrant, or my father was an immigrant. Those comments are fine. We should be wearing poppies. Let's play hockey. Like, that's fine for you to have that view. But there are people out there that are hurt by these, or they feel like they've been working to gain, I don't know if respect's the right word, but they've been looking to try to gain their place here. And they say that comments like that kind of take away all the work they've put in to try to, like, my phrasing's terrible there, but
No, I understand what you mean. And if
I think that tweet was from the guy who's in charge of the Athletic. Maybe it might be the Athletic Canada. Maybe I think he's the president or the CEO of the Athletic. He's an immigrant, and he said, like, those words hurt him.
This is completely in a different direction, but do you think that there's immigrants who come to the country who see poppies and don't know what they are or don't know what they represent? Or, like, if I went to Syria to live there and I saw people starting to wear certain little hats at a certain time, my thought would be, should I wear one too? If I do wear one, is that going to be disrespectful because I'm not Syrian? Like, are there immigrants coming to the country and don't understand what the poppy is?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are those that do. But like I said, coming back to the start of this conversation, all he has to say is, all of you people out there, and he's addressing everyone.
I know.
He's addressing you, he's addressing me, he's addressing the immigrants, he's addressing the old people, he's addressing the good old white boys from Ontario.
Yeah.
He's literally addressing everybody. It's like this conversation sucks. It really does. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I know when this goes up on YouTube, we're going to get comments that people are saying we're idiots and whatever, but
It is what it is.
You literally cannot have this conversation and please everyone if you're giving an opinion on it.
No, I think we've been very fair to both sides and tried to.
Like, we could say the facts and move on, and that's one thing to do, but I don't think, like, the podcast is about discussion. We should be talking about how we feel about it. And I'm not trying to be politically correct on it. I am trying to be careful of what we say, but I'm not hiding my views on how I feel. I'm just trying to present them in a way and trying to explain, because I know there's a large group of the population out there that won't agree with me. I'm trying to explain why I feel this way. And I'm not saying you're wrong for disagreeing with me.
Yeah, I agree. And if you think we have it bad, what about Ron MacLean? He's caught in the middle.
So I know, I think it was Monday or Tuesday after it happened. For the people that live in the States, we have hometown hockey on Sportsnet every Sunday. So basically Ron MacLean, who was Don Cherry's co-host, he travels to a different city in the country every Sunday, and they basically have like local people at a local rink come in, and they'll be like hockey players that either used to live there or do live there. Or they'll come back and they'll talk and they'll give some history. So on the hometown hockey following that broadcast, Ron MacLean basically said that he should have said something or he shouldn't let it go. And Don Cherry actually said he thought he threw him under the bus.
Yeah, and during the original broadcast, Ron MacLean agreed with Don in the sense that he's like shaking his head. Then he said something like, "That's why we love you," or something like that, and he gave a thumbs up. People were mad at Ron for supporting Don, and then on Sunday, like you said, Ron kind of threw Don under the bus.
And a couple different shows and even him tried to explain that like the timing on Coach's Corner is very tight. Like they knew they had 15 seconds to start showing the clip of his Remembrance Day thing. He also was working on something else. So, and like he said, he had that IFB in his ear. So, I mean, he was in a tough spot, but like we said in the start, there is a line down the middle and you're either on one side or the other. And that's just how it is. So, and I mean, Ron MacLean and Don had been doing that for 34 years.
Yeah.
So they are more than friends. Like they are partners. They are, they probably love each other. Like that's that's a relationship they have. Like they are very, very close friends, and like they're friends way longer than like I'm 35 years old. Like they've been friends almost as long as since I've been alive. So can you imagine if I was sitting here with Neil doing this for 34 years?
Yeah.
All of a sudden he says something in hot water or I say something in hot water, and then it's on one of us to call him out when he's that good of a friend.
Yeah.
That's a tough spot.
So basically Ron was given a talking to by Sportsnet too, I believe, and he chose career versus friendship.
Yeah.
That's a tough decision to make. So I feel bad for Ron to be put in the middle like that.
But I don't like coming back to that. I don't disagree with his decision because I don't believe Don was right in what he said.
I completely
I
agree.
just don't necessarily agree whether that was worthy of being fired over.
Yes, I agree.
So if he was being asked to make the choice of you're basically deciding to agree with what he said or keep your career, that's a pretty easy decision because I don't think anybody necessarily agrees with what he said was right. The overall message was good. Like that's a good message to get out.
Yes.
It's just how it was delivered was terrible. So, and I've seen last Saturday or last night on Hockey Night Canada, he had his own little kind of speech during the first intermission that Coach's Corner is normally in. And I told you when it was over, I said, this is kind of weird. But I thought about it a lot, actually, and it makes perfect sense. Like, he was all over the place because he's literally all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
He has, like he said, he's had sleepless nights. He's cried. It hasn't been an easy week for Ron MacLean either.
Yeah, I thought about it a lot, too. I'm glad you said that because at first I was like, well, he didn't really tell us his opinion. He didn't really say what I was expecting him to say.
He was talking to Don, through the public, which I thought it was kind of weird at first, but actually I'm okay with it now because he called Don out publicly in a way by kind of defending what Sportsnet said and said, right. I can't agree with this. But so I think it's okay to make those comments publicly. But
he did. Ron MacLean's very good with words.
Yeah.
He's a very good speaker. I've had the pleasure of seeing him in person in PEI last year. He was great. I really like Ron MacLean. I wish he had to said a little bit more, but like you, the more I thought about it, the more I was completely okay with how that went last night.
Like he knows that Don said he threw him under the bus. Yes. That's got to hurt. He knows that Bobby Orr has called him out too, saying that, and let's not forget that Ron MacLean has been fired once or twice, and Don Cherry says, hey, if he goes, I go.
Yeah.
And he got his job back.
Don literally said, if you don't got Ron, you don't got me.
That's right.
Like he threw himself under the bus to save Ron.
Yeah. But it's different circumstances.
It is.
He was let go because of they either just didn't want him anymore or they didn't think he was good enough or they wanted someone else.
Yeah.
Whereas this was he came out and said something that, probably should have been worded differently.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Do you have anything? I have something else to say about a fan, but is there anything else generally that?
I think we're okay. I think so. Not moral of the story, but in the end, if you had to ask us, I think we're kind of the same opinion, maybe.
Yeah, I think I think we're basically
questionable firing, maybe not firing. See, like I don't want to get going on this again. It's just when it comes to the firing, like everyone says, he shouldn't have been fired. He shouldn't have been fired. Like I'll agree with that up front, but if behind the scenes he was given the chance to apologize or to clarify or to reword, and he refused,
yeah,
that's where I'm stuck. Like, because you have to deal with it, but how do you deal with it?
Exactly. Exactly.
Like you can't. If Coach's Corner with him continues, then you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Because you're just not.
It's like,
but if it doesn't, then you're firing him. So it's one or the other. There's no gray area.
I know,
right?
There's no in between.
So to the people who say he shouldn't have been fired, like maybe he shouldn't have, but what would you do instead? And I know a lot of people are going to say he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And that's your opinion. But in my opinion, he did do something wrong. The way it was phrased was bad. He should have phrased it better than that. He's 85 years old. He's going to say what he wants to say.
Exactly.
But in today's day and age, whether we like it or not, sometimes you just can't do that anymore. The old school mentality is fine if you're just talking to your family or talking to a friend or you're out at a bar. When you're on a platform with 3.5, 4 million people watching you.
Yeah, and representing a
that's
brand
right.
that's not.
There's with how much money's involved in things nowadays, there's just a responsibility there that I guess he didn't want to follow, and the new president of Sportsnet said, nope, we're not having that. And
like if Justin came on this podcast and he said something as egregious as Don did, Justin wouldn't be back on the podcast.
That's right. And whether you are rightly or wrongly agree with that, it doesn't matter because he didn't break a law. He didn't, you know what I mean? He's
just representing a brand.
That's right. He's in a brand. He's in a private company. He's paid very handsomely. Like he's not just. So I don't know. It's an unfortunate situation. Like whether you like Coach's Corner or not, I think a lot of people tuned into it just to see what he was wearing. What you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It sucks that his career is ending this way, and he is 85 years old. And I don't want to get morbid here, but we don't know how much time Don has left, and this is going to be the first thing that comes up when that day comes, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, and I don't like it. People say die from a broken heart. And I think he probably had his heart broken, being going to go out like this. I don't necessarily think he's going to die tomorrow, but I'm just saying
it's fact of the matter. He's 85 years old.
Yeah.
He's had health problems in the past, but
so if we look back on this in 15 years, is this what you're going to think about?
No,
me either.
A lot of people are saying that that's how we're going to remember him now, but it's not.
That's an emotional response, I think. In
like
15 years,
he said something stupid and he didn't apologize for it. That's what this is.
Yeah, but then that's one of his qualities, though.
That's right. But like I said, the world's changed now. Like, it doesn't matter whether you like it or I like it. It's a fact of the matter. The world has changed.
Yeah, for the better. Like, anyways, I have something I want to tell you, and this could be a whole other discussion in itself. So, did you hear about the fan in Vancouver who made a sign?
No.
Okay, so there's a fan in Vancouver who made a sign that says "Support Don Cherry" with a poppy on it. He took it to a game, and security confiscated it from him.
Wow.
They took it away, and they said that the sign was too big. That was their reason. He's got it on video. It's on YouTube. And
how big was the sign? Was it actually huge?
It's like this. It's like this big. But he said, well, what about all the other people in the arena with signs the same size and bigger? And they're like, well, we didn't see any. And so he went on the website of the team and the arena to look at the sign policy. There is a sign policy. It says there's no limitation on sign size. It was completely.
So you're saying that they were given instructions to be looking for stuff like this? Is that what you're?
I don't know about that, but they removed that fan's freedom of speech. He wasn't saying a specific opinion one way or the other. He was just saying support Don Cherry. That doesn't necessarily. I don't know if that means that.
See,
he justifies what Don Cherry said. It just means that like.
Well, I think in a way it does.
It does, but I mean, still.
See, I don't want to get into this because I don't know enough about this, but people think Canada has free speech and it doesn't.
Right.
It's not like the United States. The United States has free speech. You can say whatever the bleep you want to say, and for the most part, you can get away with it.
Yeah.
Canada doesn't have that same phrasing for free speech. There are limitations to things you can say. Now, do I think having a sign that says support Don Cherry is one of those things? I don't think so.
Like, that's a pretty soft sign. It's
Yeah.
not like...
The arena is a private arena run by a private business, and if they don't want something in it, I think that's in their right to say, hey, we don't want that in here.
Yeah.
But I don't think a sign saying support Don Cherry, again, is on grounds for having that removed. So I'm kind of confused over this story.
I know, it's weird. Like, not removing this guy when the sign has created more of a story about the sign than if you just had to let him hold up the sign and it maybe have gotten on TV. Or
That's
maybe,
right.
Like,
so, like, all of these, like, broadcast crews, they have people scanning the crowd all the time because they want to capture people doing things in between, like, whistles and stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
They'll show, like, a bunch of kids having fun with their jerseys on, or they'll show people doing whatever. So if they see that sign, they can say, hey, people in the truck, this guy here has a sign. If you don't want that to appear on TV, just stay away from that angle. That guy gets to have his sign, have his moment. Maybe someone in the rink takes a picture and puts it on Twitter. It gets a couple likes, whatever.
Exactly.
It disappears after that.
18,000 other people in the arena.
That's right. It disappears after that.
It affects 18,000 people.
So, yeah, I'm with you. They should have let him have that in there. And if they really didn't want that to appear on TV, then that's pretty easy. Just don't show the angle where he is.
And this story is just kind of breaking. So now it's just going to grow and grow, right? So, anyways.
I think that's called the Streisand effect or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's
It's like when
you try to prevent something, you actually make it worse.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so.
It's crazy. Anyways, I think that probably wraps up the Don Cherry conversation. We talked for about 45 minutes on the topic, so
yeah,
I think that should get your fill in. That doesn't mean that there's not other important stuff in this podcast to talk about. We actually have a lot of women's hockey to talk about. A lot of really good stories that came out.
Do you want to get into that right now?
Yeah, so...
Okay, so last week on the podcast, we brought up women's hockey because Elliot Friedman said something. Well, 3 stories to talk about today.
And we said in the podcast, when Elliot Friedman speaks, you listen.
Yeah, and here we are a week later. So three kind of big things, actually, maybe 2.5 big things. So the first one we'll talk about is the actual women's league that exists right now. On Thursday, it was announced that there are a bunch of people that are going to start investing in the league. Mm-hmm. So the current league that exists now has 20 investors, and some of the new ones include the co-owner of the Texas Rangers in the MLB, and actually Michael Gilfillan. I think I said that right. He's the former co-owner of the New Jersey Devils. He's investing in it too. And when I read this story, I'm kind of confused by it, actually. Like maybe we can have a little bit of a discussion on this, but like what are these people investing in? Like the Canadian Hockey League folded because they couldn't make enough money. Mm-hmm. This other league's not doing great either. So they're investing money into it, trying to grow it, but
yeah, I don't think it's an investment that you expect or can quantify return from.
But this is a business group. Like, this isn't the NHL investing for fans. This is business people thinking, hey, there's going to be a return on this investment down the road.
I think you're right. I think when the NHL does pick this up and makes their own league,
but this is unrelated to that.
But those sponsors might come with the league.
They might, but right now they're going against the people, which we'll get into in a minute, that are trying to start another league.
Yes.
So I'm actually going to read the quote from the commissioner of the league. This is the league that exists right now, the women's league. It says, this funding gives us the flexibility of either selling an expansion market or our league owning it at the outset. Which is like...
What?
Yeah, like why are you looking to expand when you're having...
why would you bring in a new team when you can't even...
And this is the WNHL I didn't make that clear. So this is the 5th season of the WNHL. They actually expanded its schedule this year to have 24 regular season games. And they've also increased the salary cap this year to $150,000 per team. So it's not a lot of money for all those players. But
no.
It says, actually, for the first time, players are now receiving a 50% split of revenue from all league level sponsorship and media deals, which is good.
That is good.
Now, the problem is there's not a lot of those, so it's still not a lot of great money, but it's baby steps, right? It's going towards what they want. But you also have the women from the other side that are sitting out right now, that are trying to start a more sustainable league,
with the majority of the best players.
Yes.
So
another thing I wanted just to say about the National Women's Hockey League, so the league that exists right now, I don't know if you know about this. They started a partnership with Twitch TV. So
That's a weird partnership.
all of the women's games, for those who are into like watching gamers and whatever, all of their games are being streamed on Twitch.
Up.
I'm not kidding.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So this is the first year of a 3-year partnership with Twitch. All games and programming will be available with fans engaging with other fans, broadcasters, and influencers. So
That's really interesting.
So the announcers that are calling the game and the cameramen that are calling it are also watching the chat. So if you talk to them, you may actually get live communication, dialogue between people.
It's not a bad idea.
It's interesting.
But Twitch is dying a little bit.
Twitch is still pretty popular. It's just some of the
Yeah.
big people are being marketed by Microsoft. But
I mean, if you want to watch a women's hockey game, how are you going to watch it right now?
you're not.
Exactly.
So
Kudos to Twitch.
Twitch, no blackouts, no anything. You want to watch a game, you watch it. So I'm gonna read some of the Twitch statistics to you, and then I'm gonna argue that they're padded a little bit.
Okay.
If I can. Okay, so this is in October. So October's done now. Here are their Twitch stats from October. So they streamed 14 games in October.
Wow.
Total viewers of all 14 games was 949,065. Here's the number I have an issue with. Average per game 67,790. Now I tend to go on Twitch from time and time again. I've never seen 67,000 people watching a channel of women's hockey. So what I think is here is they're saying on average 67,000 people are tuning into a portion of that broadcast. They're not concurrently watching it.
Okay.
So there's not 67,000 people. From people that I was reading online, they're saying usually there's about 6,000 people watching a game, which is not bad. Like overall in terms of hockey, it's not great, but for Twitch it's pretty good. 6,000 people watching a channel is okay.
So it's kind of like, so on YouTube, it doesn't count as a view unless you watch it for more than 10 seconds or something like that. On Facebook, if you watch the same video, as soon as you start watching it, it counts as a view.
Yeah, so like
in the sense that
that's what I'm kind of thinking of. Like when we're like we've done live streams on YouTube in the past, you actually get the count of how many people are watching.
Yes.
I don't think this 67,790 is the average of the live watchers. I think that's how many unique people clicked on that video.
I agree.
And I don't know if it's like for 5 seconds or like whatever. So
Yeah.
I just think those numbers are a little bit fluffed a little bit to look a little bit.
I agree actually.
But it's good that they're doing that. They're giving people the opportunity to watch, and that is a way to get people into that and hopefully to grow it a little bit.
The biggest step has already been taken by just people having the conversations about this. Like, the conversations are bad that like, hey, we need this and we don't have it. But the fact that everyone's having these conversations is making the companies aware of it. And now the companies are investing in either the league that already exists or the league that's potentially wants to be created, sponsored by the NHL.
Okay, so this is the confusing part. Okay, so right now the league that exists right now is the NWHL.
Right.
The copyright that the NHL owns is the NWHL.
National Women's.
Yes,
Wait,
same letters with the two first words swapped. So we have
NWNHL?
the National Women's Hockey League is the current one.
Right.
The league the NHL owns is the National Women's Hockey League.
Okay.
So it's very confusing because they're so similar. Like it's the same 4 words, just the first 2 are rearranged.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move off from this story to talk about the other one just so we can kind of
Segue
into this whole thing. So one thing that did happen when we were watching that Coach's Corner segment that wasn't Coach's Corner where Ron was talking is immediately after that ended for us in Canada, a Budweiser ad played. And it was the Stompin' Tom Connor Good Old Hockey Game. And it's an ad they've played before, but it was different this time. And I even mentioned it to you. About halfway through, the song's all cheery and they're like, good old hockey game. And then it's just like, boom.
Somber.
And then it gets dark and you see these women standing there and they're saying the good old hockey game should be for everyone. And it's saying how it goes into the drama about how the Canadian Women's League folded and how all these people are out. So those group of women are not the women from, I got to look at this now, the NWHL that exists today.
Yes.
These are the women that are currently boycotting because they want a more sustainable league to be formed. So that's the PWHPA, which is the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association. So the ladies in this union or league or players association are not the ladies that are in the other league.
And they've just received a huge sponsorship from Budweiser.
So like the old league just got investors in it. This union, because that's what it is. It's not even a league. It's a players association. Just had Budweiser sponsor them and put ads on TV.
That's huge. And a very good at, I would say.
So it's like we have two women's, I don't know how even to word it. It's like objectives are like, instead of having one women's league, which is what these people want, like a new sustained league where things are done differently, we have two different projects going in different directions.
Yeah.
Where arguably the better players are the ones that are not playing right now. So Budweiser says, hey, we're getting behind you guys. We're not getting behind these other ladies in this other league. We're getting behind you guys.
Yep, exactly.
Which is crazy. So I think Elliot Friedman knew this was going to happen.
He did. He called it without calling it.
It's like amazing.
He's the man.
So
the NHL needs to make a decision officially.
The NHL will not do, like we've talked about this before, the NHL will not do anything until the current league is gone.
Right.
Because there are, I don't know if it's litigations or whatever, but there are, if the NHL takes over and then that league folds or the investors don't get it, whatever, they have to pay them out because they're owed money. So that league has to fold and file for bankruptcy or I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how that works.
They probably own the rights to the best players. And like back in the day, I think the Montreal Canadiens got rights to all of the best players out of Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so maybe it's like that, where the current league has the rights to all the best players. So the best players can't go play in another league. Because they own the rights.
I don't know, because a lot of the players are boycotting right now. They're not in that league.
But they're not playing at all.
But they could be. They're choosing not to.
Yeah.
I think it's more of there's a lot of investors who have invested a ton of money into this league, and there's been no return, and they're owed that. So if a big multi-billion-dollar company like the NHL takes them over, they have to get what's theirs that they've invested, right? So the league doesn't want to pay that out, understandably. So they're waiting for the league to basically self-destruct on its own.
Right.
Which is kind of what I think this other players association is trying to do. They're trying to build their own sponsors and get their own thing going.
So do you think we'll start seeing sponsorships pull out from the current league?
We already have.
Yeah,
we talked about that last time.
Yeah. But I mean,
like there were teams that backed, I think San Jose Sharks were one of them. I can't remember, but there were teams that backed that league financially, and they are now backing the Players Association for the women that are boycotting.
So how quickly does that snowball roll? Like,
I don't think that quickly. I think with this new amount of money, I think we're looking at at least 4 years.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of new funding that's come into this, and they're talking about expanding.
That's really unfortunate considering all the talent that's sitting on the wayside.
That's what I mean. Like this, it doesn't make sense to have two directions for such a small market of the sport.
Yeah.
It's like this news of the funding for the league that exists right now. That's not what the Players Association people wanted to hear, and maybe that's why they came out with this Budweiser commercial and they're saying, "Hey, we're here too." And there was a lot of like recognizable names, like I think Nurse was in there, Spooner was in there, like lots of people in there.
So we as fans can't really do anything.
No,
we other than
the only thing you can do. If you want the NHL to make this is brutal.
Yeah, this is brutal.
You have to not watch.
You can't watch and you can't go to the games. And
by yeah, that's right. It's so confusing because like, if I wouldn't have brought up the NHL one, I would have nailed it every time. But now they're there.
Yeah. But you basically have to boycott like the players are.
And it's brutal because then you're not supporting them anymore, and we should be supporting them. Like we had that conversation last week. We both think that women's league is important.
Oh, it has to exist.
But
women's hockey is amazing.
It's just. Yeah, this is a situation that's just weird.
Yeah, it's frustrating, real frustrating. Hayley Wickenheiser.
Yeah, the last point.
You know that name?
I do. She's kind of famous up here.
Why do you know that name?
She's kind of a famous hockey player.
Do you think she's the Wayne Gretzky of women's hockey?
She could be.
If I was going to pick someone as the Wayne Gretzky, it would probably be her. But
if you were saying, out of all the players who are there now, pick the one that's the Wayne Gretzky of hockey, you pick her. Are you asking me that, or are you asking me, is she on the same level that Wayne Gretzky was to the guys' game that she is to the women's game?
Correct. That's what I'm asking.
I would say she's far and above anyone else.
I agree.
But she is not on the Gretzky level because the Gretzky level is unbelievable.
The differential is huge.
That's right.
The Gretzky level, so I agree.
But I'm not taking anything away from her by saying that.
Yeah.
She is by far way above anyone else.
Yes, I completely agree.
And she, for a builder of women's hockey, she nailed it.
Absolutely.
Couldn't have done better. But you just can't compare the stats of one to the other. It's just
exactly, and that's what I brought that up. I brought that question up because she's being inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which is amazing. She completely deserves to be there, absolutely,
totally.
But Hockey Canada is having a discussion internally about whether they want to retire her number 22, I believe it is, not just in women's hockey, but in all of teams represented internationally, all Canadian teams who compete internationally. So, and that's not just women's hockey, that's men's hockey too. So if Team Canada goes to the Olympics, probably not the next Olympics, but maybe the one after, no men's player can wear number 22.
So basically like Spengler Cup and stuff like that.
Yeah, like that number is retired within Hockey Canada. That is a Wayne, and people are saying that should happen because she's the Wayne Gretzky of women's hockey.
See, I don't know how I feel about this. I know you don't like it.
I don't like retiring these like numbers, and like I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve it. She should 100% be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm just not a big fan of retiring numbers in general, so I think I have a bit of a biased opinion on this.
Do you think her portion of I don't know why I'm holding this like this.
It's weird.
Yes. Do you think her building of the game is contributing to that? Do you think it's more like normally you retire a player's number? It is their contributions to the game, but most of the time it's their play, it's their stats.
Right.
It's usually not necessarily their outside contributions or whatever, but I think women's hockey is a little bit differently like this, where you could make the argument that she is responsible for some of the ladies who are starting to play now. Like, yeah. I play because I seen her play. She dominated and made me want to be that.
She's the influence factor for a lot of young women.
I don't think there's any denying that.
So, and I think you're right. I think that could be part of the reason.
So if you take her stats, which are very good, and her contributions as a builder to the game of women's hockey,
right?
Do you think that justifies retiring a number league-wide?
No.
See, I don't know, because I don't know. I don't have a yes or no answer, because it doesn't affect me one way. I don't care whether you retire numbers or not. Mm-hmm. Usually you do it to mark like extraordinary people, and I guess that turns the debate on, is Hayley Wickenheiser an extraordinary female hockey player, which I'd say she is.
Yes. Here's what I'd like to see. Who's the best Canadian hockey player of all time? Wayne Gretzky. Who's the best female Canadian hockey player of all time? Hayley Wickenheiser. Mm-hmm. Don't retire the number. You can retire. 99's already retired. Whatever. Let the men's players and women's players wear whatever number they want in the back. Put a 99 here and put a 22 here. That's always on the jerseys, representing the two best women and man to play the game.
So would you,
every Canadian jersey.
So what would happen if down the road people surpass those? Like whether Wayne Gretzky is no longer considered the best player, or Hayley Wickenheiser is no longer considered the best player. Would you replace that number?
Yes. That's a decision by Hockey Canada.
Interesting.
That is a decision by Hockey Canada, for sure.
That's bold. I didn't expect that answer.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, you're no longer good. Take that number off, put a new one on there.
It's the same. It has to do with the conversation that we had last night about trophies.
Yep.
Should it be called the Norris Trophy still? Or should it be called
I think you should make a video.
Trophy?
I think you should make a video on that.
Yeah, and we will, but I don't think that it should be set in stone forever. Put a patch on there. Let it stay there until someone else surpasses them. But anyways, let us know what you think about that in the comments for sure. Now, Don Cherry, we talked about. Women's hockey, we talked about. Now we're getting into more like actually what happened this week in hockey. So there's a play last night that involved Matt Calvert where he got hit in the face with a puck, was down on the ice for a very extended period of time, and could not get up, tried to get up, couldn't, and because of that play, there was a goal that was scored by the opposite team. There's a lot of controversy regarding this play because it resulted in...
There's a lot of Avalanche fans upset. The coach was upset. The players are upset. There are Vancouver fans who are saying that play should have been blown down.
Yes.
This is not the first time this has happened. This has happened. We did a quick search. We've came up with a couple of examples of it happening.
Like even when the play happened, Pettersson who took the shot.
He put his hand up like, oh,
Yeah, like let's stop. He's hurt, whatever.
And then, play's not stopping. I guess I got to keep playing because I don't want to go back to the bench and have my butt tore off by my coach saying.
Even 5-10 seconds later, though, he was like looking like,
Yeah, like he turned around, and he's still on the ice looking down. Got to keep playing. Like,
yeah, even when the goal was scored, he didn't raise his stick. He turned around and kind of went towards Matt Calvert. So absolute mad respect for Pettersson for doing that. Shame on the league for letting that happen. I don't necessarily blame the officials because they're just following the rules. Mm-hmm. But it also comes to the point where
apparently, according to the rule, there could have been a judgment call made, but I don't think it's like a judgment call like written just in plain, like if he looks like he's hurt, call it down. I don't think it's written that way.
Yeah.
I think like even McKinnon was quite upset in his post-game interview. Like he was asked about, hey, you guys didn't want this game to go to overtime or whatever, and he talked about it for 5 seconds and immediately switched the conversation to, hey, the refs, I don't blame the refs. I blame the league. The rule needs to be changed.
So what if he was knocked out and wasn't moving at all?
What if it was not him? What if it was a star player?
What if it was a ref? What if a ref get hit in the head with a puck and was down there on the ice?
It'd be blown.
Exactly.
Anytime a ref gets injured, it's down.
Exactly. So why does it happen to a player and that not be okay? I said last night, or maybe it was this morning, I don't remember. When you lose your helmet in the NHL now, you got to go to the bench immediately. But you can lay on the ice after getting hit in the head with the puck, almost knocked out, and that still be playable?
The question I have is how seriously do you take your head injuries when you can get shot in the face, you can be bleeding out of your head, and you just keep the play going? We're the NHL. We're concerned with our safety. Your helmet comes off, you go to skate to the bench. Yeah. We're not going to talk about concussions because they don't happen. But if you get shot in the face with a puck and you're down on the ice and you're bleeding, you're all right. You're faking it.
Play continues.
So it doesn't happen a lot, but
no,
I think it's a common sense rule that, hey, if this guy's bleeding out of his head, he's probably not faking it.
Yeah.
Like, we're hemmed in our end, like, because there could be situations where people could try to fake it. Like,
right.
Obviously.
100%.
We've been hemmed in our end for two minutes. They just got to change. Our guys are tired.
Yep.
This guy took a puck in the head, down on the ice,
and the opposing player was concerned.
That's right.
Now, you could say, okay, well, this situation happened. Let's get it fixed this summer. Negotiations will change rules for next year. Here's the thing. This already happened 2 years ago to Zach Werenski, and had a much more gruesome injury than Matt Calvert suffered last night.
Who also had comments on his own Twitter last night saying this needs to change. And then today he clarified them a little bit, saying that I don't blame the refs. The rule needs to be changed. So part of it, I think, was a little bit of I shouldn't be talking out against the refs publicly, because some of the comments were saying, like, no, you had it right the first time. That play should have been called.
Yes. It's frustrating because it happened before.
It's happened a few times before.
And here we are having the same conversation that we probably had 2 years ago. I don't remember. I'm sure we talked about it, but
we've seen plays where players have been hurt and they've been blown down.
Yes, absolutely.
Like I can't name one specifically right now, but I know I've seen instances where players took a slap shot in the gut or whatever, and they go down, and within 5 seconds they blow it down to send the trainer out to go look at the player. So if you get hit in the head and you're bleeding on the ice, why is there a history of videos you can look up on YouTube?
Exactly.
Where nothing happens.
Especially these days. If it happens 15 years ago, okay, maybe not a big deal, but all the news,
there's so much head injury discussion.
Yeah. Like you need to blow that dead, even from an emotional standpoint as a ref. Like make a judgment call, blow that dead, and get in trouble. Like
the announcer's saying, "Oh, that's really unfortunate." It's like
that's really unfortunate.
It's more than unfortunate. The guy's like
he could die.
He could die. He could have a brain bleed.
Literally. There's a boxer that just died 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
That's right.
He fell backwards in his head, and he got obviously punched during the match. He's dead. That could have happened to Matt Calvert.
If you want to show that you're taking head injury seriously, if a player gets shot in the face with a puck and is bleeding on the ice and can't get up, blow the whistle.
Exactly. And you don't need to wait until next summer to make that decision, that rule change. Make it now. You think there's going to be GMs out there who look at these
he could be faking it, blah, blah. Yeah. Thumbs down.
You think that the Vancouver Canucks would have been upset if that play was blown dead after seeing what happened? Pettersson himself was basically stopped playing for a couple seconds because he was concerned. No, Vancouver's not going to be upset. You think their coach, Travis Green, is going to be upset? No. He saw what happened. He understands. Hockey's...
and even if they are upset, you can be upset that you're like they scored on the play. So if that would have got blown down, it's understandable they would have been upset because they lost a goal.
Yeah.
But I think they would also understand, like, hey, if that was our guy, we want that blown down.
Exactly.
We want our trainer to make sure he's going to be all right.
It goes both ways.
Like, what happened if something more seriously happened there and he did have a brain bleed? I think this rule gets changed immediately.
I think the
why
NHL
does
gets sued.
why does something big have to happen?
Yeah, I know.
Like, why can't it be a little proactive? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. If they're going to be proactive about helmets flying off and having to go to a bench, which is acceptable but a little silly, to be honest.
Like I said last time, you want to fix that rule? Tighten your friggin' strap that connects your thing. No more helmets coming off. Problem solved.
It's like if someone dies, like if Matt Calvert died, the NHL's getting sued by the family probably.
I don't know. There's probably clauses where they can't, but it would be a bad look.
Yeah, it'd be bad. Anyways, that kind of wraps up all the news. There are game recaps. There's 15 games on last night, so I'm just going to go through these really, really quickly.
This podcast is long.
Yeah, it's 110.
110? An hour and 10 minutes. 110, folks.
Okay, I'm just going to go through these really quickly. I'll say just a couple things about each game, and some games I'm not going to say anything because I didn't watch the highlights even. So the Arizona-Calgary game, this wasn't actually an interesting one because there's a good old-fashioned brawl in that game. Kemper attacked Kachuk from behind. Riddick totally left the net, crossed the red line, came down, tried to fight someone.
Even the announcers were into it. Yeah. They were like, all right, we got a good old barn burner here.
Yeah. It was awesome. I loved it. There needs to be more of that in hockey, in my opinion. But, I mean, Kemper made 37 saves in that game. He tried to get in a fight. He got a shutout. Darcy Kemper is a freaking man in that game last night. So good on him. Arizona won 3-0. The Vegas-LA game, LA upset Vegas. Now, the Kings took a 2-0 lead after the first, got out to a good start. They added another one in the second, but Vegas got 3 goals in the second period. But it wasn't enough. The Kings won, and now the Kings are on a 3-game winning streak, which is pretty good for them because they got a slow start to the season. The Dallas-Edmonton game, Dallas won 5-4. I don't know what's going on in Dallas, but it seems like they might have fixed their issues.
They have had a turnaround.
Jamie Benn,
TSN turning point, as they call it.
Jamie Benn got the OT winner last night, and now Dallas is 8-1-1 in their last 10, which is remarkable because they were called out hard maybe 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, something like that. The Winnipeg-Tampa game. Oh, sorry, I skipped one. Carolina-Minnesota. Carolina won 4-3 in overtime. With the win, Carolina is back into winning consistency, making that 3 straight games that they've won. Winnipeg and Tampa Bay. I don't know if this is really an upset this year based on Tampa Bay's play, but Winnipeg won 4-3. I don't understand how a team can be so dominant one year, the lineup not really change that much in the offseason, and be so inconsistent. And that's not saying that Winnipeg's not a good team and Tampa Bay should have won. Mm-hmm. Winnipeg's actually playing really, really good hockey right now. But Tampa Bay has been struggling all year. So I don't understand how that happens. How do you go from getting almost 130 points or whatever it was last year and barely being able to beat any team this year?
Well, let's think how their season ended. Think of the first round playoffs. They got swept.
Still.
And then you're like, okay, well, that's pretty weird, but clearly that's not Tampa Bay Lightning. They're going to come back pissed off, and they haven't.
They haven't. Like, the team is stacked. Like the display that we saw last year was not an overachievement, in my opinion. That was legit. I don't know what's going on this year, but anyway. So your Bruins played the Washington Capitals yesterday. They lost by 1. Washington won 3-2. And you pointed out that Boston has lost to Washington the last 15 of 16 games that they've played.
I was over at Neil's house last night. We were watching the hockey. And I said, I don't know if you believe me or not, but I told you we cannot beat Washington.
Yeah.
Like, we can't. And then I gave you that stat and you couldn't believe it. And it's true.
It's true. Last 15 to 16 games, Boston has lost against Washington.
Bad.
Hopefully they don't meet in the playoffs for your sake. Buffalo and Ottawa game. Buffalo won 4-2. Do you know who scored 4 goals for Buffalo?
I do.
Who?
Go ahead.
Jack Eichel.
Yeah.
4 goals.
He's putting the team on his back.
Like, Buffalo is the Edmonton of the East. Like, does that make sense? Like,
okay,
Edmonton
now
McDavid
hold on a second. Let's analyze that phrase. Is that a compliment or an insult?
Well, I used to say the same thing about Washington and St. Louis before both of them won the Stanley Cup. St. Louis is the Washington of the East. They have really good, strong regular seasons. They can't do anything in the playoffs. Buffalo has Jack Eichel. And
I hear crickets.
That's kind of it. I mean, I'm just teasing a little bit. Obviously, they've got Dahlin and a bunch of other great players. But when you have a player, your best player score 4 goals in the game, to like no one else for the team scored a goal that game. It was just Jack Eichel. It reminds me a lot of Edmonton, who has Draisaitl and McDavid.
Yep.
And other than that, really just average players. Now, Buffalo does have a couple of maybe better than average players to support Eichel, but still, I mean, you can't have one guy scoring 4 goals in the game. Like, you need some support other than that. So, I mean, good on him for scoring 4 goals. It's amazing, but
It reminds me of that Leafs game where Matthews scored 4 goals and they still lost.
yeah,
Do you remember that?
was that his first game in the NHL?
No, it was. I don't know.
He scored 4 goals in his first game.
Maybe it was. They lost 5-4. I remember that.
That's amazing, though.
Can you imagine scoring 4 goals and your team still loses? Man, that's got to feel good.
The New Jersey-Montreal game, New Jersey won 4-3. Montreal just completely stunk that one up. They at one point their shots were 29-9, I think, or something crazy like that for New Jersey. There were 9 penalties in the third period. I thought the refereeing was absolutely ridiculous in this game.
I think most people think. Okay, let's talk about that goal that was not counted. What do you think?
Hold on.
Okay.
Montreal did not lose because the reffing sucked. New Jersey did not win because the reffing sucked. Just generally,
It sucked for everybody.
It sucked bad. Now the goal, I was very emotional when it happened. I thought it should have been a goal because he said, "This is not a good goal because it was kicked into the net or was a kicking motion." Never even touched
Neil
his foot.
goes, "What?" And I go, "Yes."
So, okay, I was upset. I thought it should have been a goal, but after I actually read the rule, which states any motion from any other part of your body to redirect the puck into the net is considered a motion to.
And he
illegal.
did kind of the top part of his leg.
The top part of his leg
went up and he pushed it in with that.
Yeah, so it was the right call. That should not have been a goal. So good job on the refs for making that right decision. However, I think there should have been a penalty shot because a New Jersey player, I think it was Heischer maybe, closed his hand on the puck in the crease.
And also they're saying that Subban tripped him going in. So there's 2, but I don't think those are reviewable, right?
But there could have been a tripping penalty, and there could have been.
But you can't review the penalties
I
that
know.
could have been.
But I mean, come on, refs! You called everything else. You're not going to call that?
Yeah.
Like, just frustrating. Anyways, Florida beat the Rangers 4-3. I have literally nothing to say about this game. I didn't watch any of the highlights. The Islanders beat Philadelphia 4-3 in a shootout. I didn't watch that game at all. Now, the Pittsburgh-Toronto game. Pittsburgh wins 6-1. Do you know who won the majority of the faceoffs in that game? We want to take a guess at the team that won the majority of the faceoffs based on the score.
I'm going to have to say that it was Toronto.
It was Toronto. Do you want to know the percentage of faceoffs they won in that game?
I have no idea what this is actually.
68%.
Yes, sir.
You know what that tells me without looking at any other statistics? The Toronto Maple Leafs give the puck away a lot. If you're winning 68% of the draws and getting immediate possession 68% of the time, and you lose 6-1, that tells me that you're giving the puck away a lot, which isn't really new news for Maple Leafs fans or Toronto.
Do you think this is a time of concern for Maple Leafs fans?
I think it's a time of concern 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So a lot of people are saying, let's say if we're having this conversation in November or December, they said this at the beginning of the season, we're kind of getting there.
Yeah, we're halfway through, more than halfway through, I guess, officially today. What's the date? 17th? Yeah, we're more than halfway through November. Thanksgiving's coming up in the States. That's usually the weekend where
we're 20-some games in,
made.
yeah. So things are not great in Leafland, I would say. There was also a Fire Babcock chant going around the rink last night.
Do you think there's a Bab clock? Do you think that...
I do.
Do you think it's Christmas?
I don't know when it is, but when you get people like Brian Burke coming out and saying, start the clock, if he's saying it, there's other people saying it.
I don't think he gets fired.
The main reason I say that is because they have their guy in the minor leagues they want. They already have their next coach. Yeah. They're paying him handsomely to sit down there and wait.
I'm trying to think of his name. I can see his face clear as day.
If you wouldn't ask me his name, I would have nailed it.
It's like Dave or something. But or David or Davis or David.
I can't remember.
I don't know. I can't remember. But
Sorry
I
to
see his
those in the
face.
comments who I know you're just going to pull it up. But.
Yeah. Do I think he's going to get fired? No. Do I think he should? Yes. Definitely.
I don't think he'll get fired either.
It's they've invested too much.
Yeah.
It sends the wrong message. Do I think he lost the room or has lost the room? Absolutely. Look at the team. It's stacked.
Do you think if they stay on their current trend or get worse, he could get fired? Or do you
Yes.
think regardless of...
If it's February and they're 20 points out, he's done.
I think if they're quite a ways out earlier than that, he could be done.
Think so?
Maybe.
I think Christmas is the...
It depends on how they play, I think. I think if they stay kind of around where they are, which is not great, he's probably fine. If they get worse, I think he could be in trouble.
If this...
Like you got players coming out saying that the locker room's not very friendly right now, or not very enjoyable, or not very lively. Like
if this play was happening in Chicago, we'll say, for example, not a big deal because you kind of expect it, but Toronto is stacked. Like, look at their offensive power, and even defensively. I mean, there's not bad players back there. They have a really good team. So to me, that tells me there's something wrong in the dressing room with the coach. He's lost them, in my opinion. So I don't know if he can get them back or not. But
and they don't have a lot of wiggle room financially. So if you're Kyle Dubas, the GM, and you're looking at, okay, how can I shake things up? How, like, 'cause, you got to make a change for making a change just so the players see that you're making a change.
Yeah.
On the player side, you don't have a lot of room to do anything.
You can't do much.
Like the only way you're doing much is if you're trading one of your big ticket guys.
Yep. And there's Tyson Berry trade rumors and stuff.
Yeah, I guess people are looking at him now. So I think the coach is definitely a viable option. I don't know if he'll actually happen or not.
And Toronto does have a history of giving a kick to a lot of coaches.
Yeah, sure do.
We'll see. The Anaheim-St. Louis game, Anaheim won 4-1 over St. Louis. Grant with a hat trick, so awesome to see there. Chicago absolutely spanked Nashville 7-2. The Chicago Blackhawks are 6-2-2 in their last 10. They have basically 2 to 3 games in hand of most of the teams around them. If Chicago won those 3 games in hand, guess where they are in the standings?
Ooh, tell me.
3rd place in their division.
Yes, sir.
In a playoff spot.
Wow.
That's pretty incredible.
Yep.
They've only played 19 games this year, so they got to play some catch-up. Colorado-Vancouver game, we talked a little bit about that earlier, but Colorado won 5-4 in overtime. I have to say, those Vancouver jerseys...
They're pretty spicy.
That uniform on the ice looked absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best-looking uniform on ice, and I'm not sure if it's because I like the way it looks or because of the completely nostalgia feeling that I get from it.
I'm thinking probably a little bit of the latter.
I think so too. That is the best uniform I've seen in 10 years.
It's epic.
It's so good. I love it. But here's the thing. I know people who hate that jersey. Like, Dad, I don't think likes that jersey at all. So I don't know. The last game was the San Jose-Detroit game. San Jose won 4-3. San Jose is now on a 6-game winning streak. Bringing back Patrick Marleau has been incredible for the Sharks. So I'm very happy about that. Sharks are my second favorite team. So that's all the notes I have. This has been a very long podcast. We're at about
123 minutes, people.
We're at about an hour and 23 minutes.
Okay, from now on, I'm going to read the clock.
Yeah, you can read the clock. So
do you think this is the longest podcast ever done?
No, we did one that was like 131 once.
131?
I mean, an hour and 31.
Okay.
I can't even blame on it being super early in the morning. I'm just an idiot.
Yeah, like this is the latest podcast we've ever filmed here.
Yeah, it's 3:32 right now. So.
Yep. Normally they're done. Well, back in the day, we did them at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that was bold.
No excuse.
That was bold. No excuses, yeah.
Yep.
9 o'clock.
Oh, well. So if you listen to this whole thing, hats off to you.
Kudos to you, yeah.
You guys must kind of like us or something.
I really appreciate it. If this is your first video or your first podcast on the channel, maybe you clicked on it because of the Don Cherry in the title or something like that, and you've made it this far on the podcast, we really appreciate that. I hope you can go down and hit the subscribe button if you are on YouTube. If you're listening to this on iTunes or whatever, that's awesome too. We really like our audio listeners. Back in the day, we had a contest for our audio-only listeners. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. And we may do something like that in the future.
Yeah, so if you're not subscribed, I don't know how it works, follow, I guess, on iTunes or whatever. Be cool if you hit that follow button and listen to the audio version of this too on the bus or wherever you're going. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this being almost an hour and a half long might be a good if you live in a big city, it might be a good listen to a commute to work or something.
Yeah, maybe. I'm always interested to hear where people listen to this podcast. Some people watch it, obviously, but a lot of people listen to it. If you are listening to the audio version of this, if you have a YouTube account and you don't mind jumping on YouTube and looking this video up, if you could just leave a comment, and even if you are watching the video or just have it on the background on YouTube, can you tell me what you do while you listen to this podcast? Do you sit there and literally just intently watch us? Or are you working on homework? Are you doing other work? Because I listen to some podcasts, and I know how I listen to podcasts. I'd be curious to know what you guys do while you're listening to this. So,
and if you are a podcast listener, maybe you want to share some thoughts on the Don Cherry situation. Maybe you want to say or just share an opinion about something we said and whether you agree with it or not, or have a different view that we maybe overlooked, or just want to contribute. They can also write an email, can't they? Or
yeah, you can send an email to postshow@gmail.com.
Yeah, so if you're a podcast listener and YouTube's not your thing, or even if you're just a YouTuber and you just have something big you want to write out and send it to us, we love getting emails.
Yep, absolutely. Might read some on air someday soon. The last thing I need to address is that I'm an idiot. I've said that a couple times this podcast, but if you notice, I'm wearing a green jersey. There's a green screen behind us.
Yeah,
I completely forgot.
Studio B is not a live set.
We don't have this set up quite yet, so I forgot that we had a green screen. We filmed with a green screen now in short term. So I have no idea how this is going to look on camera. It might look blue. It might I might be invisible. I don't know. But
there might be a background here. There might be just a green thing back here.
If this is green,
depending on how this looks.
Yeah, if this is green the entire time, no, I didn't make a mistake in post. I made a mistake in real life as an idiot and wore a green jersey.
But you did that on purpose.
I did that on purpose because it's Remembrance Day just passed a little while ago, and we're talking about Don Cherry's veterans and supporting troops and all that stuff. So you didn't watch me unbox this jersey yet because I didn't release it yet, but I filmed it last night, and it'll release tomorrow, Monday. So even though you've seen me wear it on camera and stuff, you'll watch me open it in the future, which is weird. But, thank you for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. Jason, thanks for joining me for this podcast. It's great to have you here. And I have a feeling that next week's podcast won't be as long.
No.
But we'll try and make it as close to an hour as we can as we usually do. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a good day, and we will see you in the next podcast. Adios.